Jum Den Den Di Jin Shaban Rajam Yang Zobe Sanje Ribadan Shabson Demba Devarishem Jidin Jamba Jivon Deva Kalo Jivanan Padam Benanje Demba Sanje Jum Den Den Pejam Shaja Dubala Shaja Lo Chedo Jazuchi Demba Jum Den Den Di Shaban Rajam Yang Ribadan Shabson Demba Devarishem Jidin Jamba Kalo Jivalana Meval Hadam Benanje Sanje Jum Bejawa Shaja Tobala Chasen or Chedo Jabuchi. Jamba Jum Den Den Di Shin Shevan Rajuma Yanda Rivada Shazun Demba Devari Shevan Jedin Jivun Lana Meval Hadam Menon Jedema Sanje Jum Bejawa Shaja Tobala Chasen or Chedo Jabuchi. Kanze Kanya Zoa Jadam Sea Sajen Manen Jiden Dena Choje Zon Teze Keva Jama Namda Kunga Choto Sosawa Yishi Jazu Seke Chaban Jiden Sumba Lameva Gombo Chonye Jama Chenjon Demba Chimenda Veshi Sendo Jawa Jama Jiri Jara Seva Suma Jenyame Chenshe Jama Gombo Tuje Che Demba Tamje Jembe Sonama Yuden Jama Dishin Shema Chawa Temo Tabian Deja Chawa Juki Vengi Zonde Chido Denam Jojo was Shinjur Jama Chene Treva Labatala Rado de Shinga Tama Gedema Yacha Diwajian Gavabun Saway Rangazen Yonso de Dene Sanje Temanya Karmata Rima Jumas Chubur Melon Lota Genda One de Shanam de Terata Sonam Dia Kovanton Nejin Ratu de Gadana Shiva Love Sive Solendo one show.
To the teacher, the blessed one, for destroy, completely perfected, fully awakened me, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, Sugata, law of the world, supreme guide of beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the blessed one, the glorious comforter, subdue from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings and go forever. To the teacher, the blessed one, the one born here, for destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, Sugata, know of the world, supreme guide of beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, subdue upon the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings and go for to the teacher, the blessed one, the one God you, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, Sugata, know of the world, supreme guide of beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, the subdue from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings and go for refuge. When you supreme among humans, you upon on this earth, you paced out 7 strides, then said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise, then I prostrate. With pure bodies born, supremely pure, wisdom motion like golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, we know the best, to you I prostrate. With the supreme signs, face like spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. You are immaculate, the 3 worlds are known. Incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, the teacher having all understanding, the field of merit with the qualities like a vast ocean, to you the one gone to dustness I prostrate. The purity which makes one free from attachment, the virtue which frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime pure reality, to the Dharma which pacifies I prostrate. Those who are liberated and also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts, to you the sublime community intending virtue I prostrate. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions, subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. star, mirage, or flame of a lamp, illusion, drop of dew or bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning or cloud, see conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings obtain and call seeing, subdue the four force, and be delivered from motion of suffering, of aging, sickness, and death.
Sanje Jana Zonje Jana Ma Chanju Padu Dagi Jeso Jeva Sonam Je Dola Benje Sanje Jana Zonje Jana Ma Chanju Padu Dagi Jeso Jeva Sonam Je Dola Benje Sanje Jana Zonje Chanju Padu Dani Jazu Je Dagi Jeso Jeva Sonam Dola Benje Sanje Jana Sanje Jana Zonje Jana Chanju Padu Dagi Jeso Jeva Sonam Je Dola Benje Sanje
Echo for refuge and enlightenment. Through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge and enlightenment to the Buddha, the Dharma, and Sangha. Through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge and enlightenment to the Buddha, the Dharma, and Sangha. Through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings.
Sanje Jumden de Azo and the Shinshiwa in Sonanda Gudum, Kevezo, Severa de Gemazon, Jetera, no Jizia, Bejes, and Bonum, Channel, Jim, Tona Medema, Meva, Devemeva, no longer go, Sigurd, Sinjetam Jijetama, Chanju Sambanam, Pabia Mazon, Yamen, Tronjet and Rowan and Jetem, Yeshabadam, Bobason Jemmy, Sonambrata. Vijeta ve chomi chibu, ku tsomba mepa de vata ge ma, soda ge nyewa ma, su me pa ta. Dungen la nambra chubu, pumba ta la nambra chubu, kamnanda me tenpa geja la nambra chubu, na shindo chibu. Yonzo dungwa ta la nambra chubu, siva le chubu, chubu le gewa ishe yon, deva ta ma chumba ta. Sanje chumden de ge ishe la neva, nyame la neva yanda wa nye chata, sinje tomje. Sibe sala shuwa teyan de tante sanje chumden de ge kuchi, teyan da wana. Tambe chene toman gepa, pade gepa, taman gepa, teyan sa, sendu sa, manje pa, yonzo tawa, yonzo chanwa, yang tawa, towa, nembe pa, tucheba mepa, nyewa tenma, ti tawa ma, kenyo. Keba na je sozo range riwa chewa chumden de ge, newa sumbe chudu wala, newa toba, newa chunwa, zobe chanju, Midimba mejen deba da temba yuba yuba cheba wo teba cheba never shuba rego shuba chambara shuba temba cheba wezo cha cheba sona jebe jishi yen so jwa cheba jibe na zo yuba kundo wa jibe na zo yuba cheba kangi de jenja wa jo la ba me ba jeme ba cheba me ba ta wa me ba do me ta de cheba ni shi da ma zo be san je ma na je ta ba te na cha che. So, page 345, how the recollections arises in the absence of the reflexive awareness, according to our system. In the Prasangin school. So, this has two parts in the Prasangin school. The approach presented in this text and the approach presented in others' texts, like Shantideva's text. Shantideva's, I think the two kind of response to the mind-only school question. So mind-only school says,
how can you, how can you have recollection of any memory without having experience in the past? So recollection means you must have experience in the prior time. So you remember two. You remember object, you remember subject. So the object we can understand, the object you have already perceived in the prior time, and how do you remember the subject? So who has experienced or perceived the subject? So this is the mindfulness school question. The responding to that question in Chandikiti and Shantideva. So Shantideva says, approach present in this text, Shantideva says, apart from the recollection of the experience of the object, for us, there is no recollections that is extraneous. That is different, that is a different from the prior experience. So therefore, the memory, I saw that, can occur. This too is within the norm of worldly conventions. So the Chandikiti answer is the recollections of the object and the cognitions which perceive that object in the prior time are no different. It's like a seed and sprout. They are not different. They are not independent. So Chandiki, the answer is that. So sprout to manifest or to form, there is no any reflexive awareness, from the seed. Because of the seed, therefore sprout. Because you have experienced in the past, therefore now you remember. So the recollections and the prior time of the cognitions perceiving the object is no different. That is the Chandikita answer. So this is how the remembering the subject is happening. So I saw that can occur. So this too is within the normal conventional. This too means the relations or the recollections of that object and the prior time, the cognition perceiving the object is a conventional, relative, how to say, convention, they are cause and effect. Chatukati, answer is very simple. Now the question here is, according to you, that this is my new school says, according to you, who do not accept. So my new school says, according to you, who do not accept reflexive awareness, how does recollection occur then? The response, we already explained above how in our systems there is no such recollections that is intrinsically extraneous, right? To the prior experience of this object. I have also already stated how in the ordinary people there does not exist grasping an intrinsic separateness of the things that are cause and effect within the single shared material continuum, like a seed and sprout. The material continuum, like a seed and sprout is no different from that seed. So similarly, they are not intrinsically two different, phenomena. So recollection of the object and the prior term experience of the object is also, they are not intrinsically separate. Like a seed and sprout. Therefore, even here, with respect to the prior cognition of an object and its subsequent recollection too, which are cause and effect. So there is no grasping at intrinsically established separateness of the two, insofar as the innate perceptions of the worldly people is concerned. Normally, what worldly people, what mundanely understood, so, and mundanely they understood that seed and sprout, milk and yogurts, they don't really consider is a two different thing. So similarly, recollection of the object, the prior time of the cognitions, cognizing the objects, are also like a seed and sprout, milk and yogurt. So there is no intrinsically separateness of these two. So that's the Chalakirti's answer of how it is possible without having reflexive awareness. So how can you remember? If the sprout can occur, without the reflexive awareness from the seed, why not the recollection of the object occur from the cognition to cognizing the object? Not only is there no such grasping at separateness, but when recollections occur of what was seen by the visual perception of the blue object, he would use convention like, "This is I have seen before as well." This clearly shows that there is no conception of one's prior experience and the subsequent recollections, as well as their respective two objects. As being somehow distinct by virtue of their intrinsic characteristics. When it comes to the perception of the ordinary people of the world, when it comes to the perception of ordinary, so ordinary people do not see them, intrinsically different or they're different. They only understand is the continuity and the cause and effect. So further, they do not kind of analyze or they do not examine. If this is not the case, and the cognition ends, its subsequent recollections, right, are the distinct from each other by virtue of their intrinsic characteristic, then a person could recall an experience belonging to someone else's mental continuum. Upagupta's experience remembered by Maitreyas, right? Maybe it's really not normal when someone says, "I remember that thing." Maybe because you have seen it. You don't say that, right? I don't remember. I have seen it. I remember this. Maybe you saw it. Since what is the prior cognition has experienced and determined are not something that the subsequent recollections did not experience or determine, so the memory I saw that before as well can occur. This too is something to be accepted within the normal worldly conventions, that relations of the cause and effect and the continuity is in the norm of worldly conventions. It should not be posited by means of the critical analyze. They don't really, objectively analyze the worldly people, whereby not contained with mere designations. Not contained with, huh? Yeah, I said it. So not contained with mere designations. One searches for objective reference over and above the construct. So this was, I find it very interesting in saying that in English. In Tibetan we say, normally I use objective analyze. So here is, like literally like Tibetan, the way we word it, like for example, this is like search for the objective reference of the designation. So how you see, one search the objective reference over and above the construct. So what is the search objective reference over and above the construct?
Illustration.
Yeah. For example, when I designate, this is east. So the relatively, when I designate this is the west, relatively I can find something is east, right? So that's called, I have designated the direction of the east through construct. So now, so when I search the reference over and above the constructs, so I'm looking objectively what I construct that is findable within the basis or not. So, for example, if once I designate this is the direction, this is the east. So, if the east that I designated, if I find objectively over and above the construct, it has to be found within the soil or the tree or house or the mountain, right? So from the soil, from the tree, from the mountain, and there is no any illustration of the east. So whatever I designate as the east, the direction of the east, so I simply designated, over the mental construct, right? So whatever I designate through the mental construct, it has to remain exists in the face of thought. In beyond the thought, there is no findable. So you cannot search anything objectively, the objective reference over and above the mental construct. So, so objective reference over and above the construct. For were we to search for the objective reference of the designations, nothing can be found, indicating that they are fictitious and mere convention of the world. So whatever the meaning that I designated, whatever the identity I designated, whatever the how's that, the entity that I designated, so it's all remain in that mental construct. So that cannot be objectively groundable with anything, right? So that's why it's the existing of that is fictitious. So the fictitious, unreal, not truly exists. It is the lie. It is the lie. So when I say the ist, so is the fictitious, is the lie, but I did not lie. So this is ist, right? So in the commentary, after refuting the subsequently reflexive awareness and the recollections existing by virtue of their intrinsic characteristic, refuting, right, the reflexive awareness. So Chandikid writes, if the assertion is from the perspective of worldly conventions, even then there cannot be recollections that is caused by the reflexive awareness. So which means the reflexive awareness is even reflexive awareness is not exist even in the conventional. So thus the reflexive awareness is rejected not only on the ultimate level, but even on the conventional level. He then goes on to say, I will show how the recollections can emerge in the absence of reflexive awareness. So think that the thought, I have seen it. It is the recollection of subjective experience, why I saw this thing in relation to, say, a blue object is recollection of an object. There is then the thought, I remember what I myself saw before. So which is special cause of the recollections. When this kind of recollection occurs, it is clear that the prior cognitions say an experience of seeing materia had experienced itself. For the recollections follow that exact patterns of one's prior experience. So it's kind of, there's no gap between these two, or it's one simple continuities. So that is the reason, from the experience, there's the memory. So experience in the memory, there is no need to kind of, like what do you call it? Mediator, like reflexive awareness, to link together. It is already linked. So yeah, in this kind of recollections, in our view, we accept that ordinary people experience recollections, but we do not say that these occur because of the prior cognition experiencing the object has cognized itself. So that does not mean, by experiencing and then having a memory of that, you don't need the prior time to experience the experience. Such recollections occurs because the very object perceived by the prior cognition is determined by the subsequent recollection as well. That is, they share the same object. This is why the subsequent recall takes form. So I think another definition is, so if you at the second time when you perceive that object, so that's called, oh, this I have seen before. So you have repeatedly, engaged twice in one object. So this is why the subsequent recall takes form. I've seen this person, Maitreya, before as well. So we ourselves do accept the convention, such as I remember what I myself saw before. Yet our acceptance of such convention is very different from the account according to the alleged reflexive awareness. So it is very different from the reflexive awareness. The Chitramatha's opponents posit the prior experience and its subsequent recollection, as well as their respective object, as being distinct from such other by virtue of their intrinsic characteristic and soul, even though they may assert the prior cognition and its subsequent recollections as having same object, and also claim that they belong to the shared single continuum. This remains untenable for them. So the Prasangika school kind of saying this, there's the contradiction for the mind-only school, accepting that the prior experience of the object, the recollections of that object, is a two different subject. Yet there are kind of one single continuities. So the Prasangika school says that is untenable. It's not making sense. If these are not different two subject, there's not different two kind of the perceptions. So this remain untenable for them. This has been explained numerous times above.
I'm having difficulty understanding that. Can you kind of repeat or expand on it?
Okay. Chitramatha opponents, right, presented the prior experience and its subsequent recollections, as well as their respective objects, as being distinct from each other by virtue of their intrinsic characteristic. So, for example, in the prior time, I've seen that blue. Now I remember the blue that I have seen. So the memory of the blue object and the cognitions of the blue objects are different by virtue of their own characteristic. Yet they are one single continuity. So for the minority school, it's not a problem. From the Prasangika school, when you say these two subjects, the consciousness, remembering the blue and perceiving the blue, once you accept they are different by virtue of their own characteristic, and then this like an apple and orange. So this cannot go on one continuum. So it's from the Prasanga school perspective, it says is untenable. For the Mainona school says, yes, it's for you untenable, is for us not only, is tenable, is entertainable. So Mainona school believes that seed and sprout is separate by virtue of their own characteristic. They are different by virtue of characteristic, but still is one single continuum. Within one single continuum. So the Prasanga school says, when you say seed and sprout is by the different or distinct by virtue of their own characteristic, then it's like a rice seed and barley sprout. For the minority schools, no, it's not necessary because there are difference in time, different in size, different in shape. So therefore, they are different. Anything that is different has to be different by virtue of their own characteristic. So this is the Chandrakirti is saying this is untenable. Yethonyam the temple, the Ujentum, the mobile laws of Rangi Tongatini, Rangi Tenya, the Tezu Keba, Chabatella, Chabatella, Chuna, Nara Chabata, Shebate, Korangi, Koran Yor, said the Chabat and Wichita, which is Rano, the Jidan of the Chinzu, Kelenya, Chinzu, the Ward, Nardi Union, Shebate, Korangi, Korangi, on the show of Indians. Rangi Yon Chabat, Tibetang, should be usually Chabati. So and then at the end, this is the Prasanga school, summarizing here. So even though one speak of this materia, this materia I have seen in the last year in Bodh Gaya, right? So it is not locus, it is not a locus and a time-specific materia. So when you say, so the materia that you have seen him the first in the Bodh Gaya, the second time you saw him in Pomona. The place are different, the time is different, but this one same single person. So materia. So locus and the time-specific materia, such as the one, how's that? Coinciding? Yeah. Coinciding. One coinciding with alternates of this very sentence. So when you see this materia, I have seen. When you say, when you say this, you are pointing the materia, one who is right now in Pomona. When you speak of this person in the Pomona, I'm seeing him. I have seen him in other place, right? Coinciding the alternate in the very sentence, or the materia one remember having seen in specific place, rather, which is being remembered, is just materia. It's just about the materia. It's not about the Bodh Gaya. It's not about the Pomona. Maitreya in general sense. So that is so can be discerned by observing one's own mind. So you can understand this from your own experience. When you say this thing, I've seen that in that store. So you are not talking about the store, you are not talking about the place, that person that you're seeing right now. You're just talking about the thing that you recall. So, so that recollection of that thing is due to the prior time that you have cognized that object. So the object that you twicely engage. So therefore, recollection happened. So there is no another condition, to generate the recollections like reflexive awareness. You don't need. Yeah, that's the Chandrakriti kind of responding to the minority school questions. This question is, without having experience in the past, how can we recall? You can understand on the object that perceived by the subject, particular subject. So therefore you can remember. Now you're not only remembering the object, you're also remembering the subject. So, what kind of experience that you have in the past for remembering the subject. So then the minority school want to go on that, but reflexive awareness. For us, because the reflexive awareness experience the subject experience the object. So now I can recall both. And for the Prasangika school, you don't accept the reflexive awareness, but you can say, I can remember that thing, but you cannot say, I have seen it.
Ask you a question. Is the self-reflexive awareness active, like when the subject sees Maitreya and Lokaya? And so when the subject sees Maitreya, self-awareness first, mind only, is active. And then again, when they see Maitreya and Pramona, is it active again?
It's not really kind of.
Yes, I know it's a hypothesis.
Yeah. No. It's not that complicated. It's not complicated. So from the Chandrakriti point of view, saying that, because you have experience in the past, therefore you can have recollection of that object. So the experiencing in the past is the cause for recall to that object, right? So which means the Prasangika is implying that we don't really need the reflexive awareness for me to remember that thing. Just from the experience in the past is enough to bring that recall. So the minority school insists that, to recall means you have to experience the very thing that you're remembering has to experience in the past. So the now point is the Chandrakriti's answer is not really satisfying for the minority school. So minority school say, I'm not very convinced. There is not much I can dispute on that your point, but it is not really convincing to me. I still go back saying, things that you remember because you have experienced in the past. So that you both can agree on the object, but you cannot agree on the subject part. Subject, how you remember. You have any another subject that had experienced the subject, right? So how can you have the recollection of that subject? For example, saying, I have seen it. I remember I'm seeing that thing. So that part, you haven't really, convinced to me.
Well, I'm related to the mind-only school much more than the Prasangika school here, because I don't think you necessarily need another I per se, but it seems to me you have to recall an awareness of the I who saw it as you're seeing whatever it was you were you saw before, whether it's a person or a building, doesn't matter. I mean, if you didn't see it, who saw it? I mean, there is, when you're seeing something, at the moment you're seeing it, you may or may not have an awareness of self. But it seems to me that, well, we use the term self-awareness. It seems I have to have some awareness I am seeing. If I don't have the awareness I am seeing, then I guess we're enlightened, because there's no dualistic state at all. There has to be an I who's seen it, it seems to me. I'm not really following this Prasangika reasoning.
Yeah. That reminds me. That reminds me the Donald Trump speech. The kidney has a special place for the heart. So, just
Well, I has a special place.
so you don't need much meaning. You just the way I say it confidently, that's enough for you.
Are you saying there doesn't have to be an awareness of the Prasangika position?
You have to go. You have to follow the reasoning. You have to follow the reasoning.
Oh, I'm trying.
Mind-only school has the reason that anything that you remember, you must have experienced that in the past. In that way, now you remember the below things that you remember because you have seen earlier. So now it comes to the subject remember, the experience of having seen that object. So when you remember the blue color that I have seen it before, means blue remember, having seen the blue is remember. Right? You remember both. Seeing the blue is remember, the blue itself is remembering. So blue itself is, we say, because I have seen through the eye consciousness, therefore I remember. Now, having seen the blue has who experienced in that past. To remember that having seen the blue, you must have experienced that in the past. Is the eye consciousness by itself experiencing? Eye consciousness knowing, my eye consciousness is seeing things, experiencing, eye consciousness seeing the blue.
Oh, I think I'm confusing I with I. In other words.
So that's why I'm saying, I'm telling you, the kidney has a special place for the heart.
But I mean, to me, reflexive awareness, maybe I'm misunderstanding the concept. To me, reflexive awareness is the sense that you don't only have a recollection of the object, but you have a recollection that I myself has seen this.
Yeah,
me.
I am.
Now, if you remove the me who's seen this, how can you have a memory without the fact you had a sense of I myself saw this. Isn't that necessary to, when you remember something, to say, I myself saw that? I mean, you have some sense that going back in your mind here, you're recollecting that you had this experience before. And that seems to me to be correct. And I think that's reflexive awareness. And if my understanding of that is either right or wrong, and if it's right, if it's correct, then I don't see how Prasangika says, oh, it's enough to remember blue without having a sense of I. You understand what I'm saying? No, you don't understand.
It's not about the I, sense of I or not.
You're talking about this side.
No. It's the same thing. I have seen it, It's not talking about remembering myself. I have seen it means object is remembering. So seeing blue and the blue itself, the seeing blue and the blue, both you remember. So to express, when you express, so how do you express? Say, I saw it. I have seen it. So when you say, I have seen it, which expressing that I have remembered that thing, I remember seeing that thing. So now my knowledge school says, just split this, experiencing an object. Object blue, you remember that you have seen that in the past. Who has seen? When do you see that seeing the blue? That's my knowledge school says. When do you experience that you are experiencing the blue? So the my knowledge school's reflexive awareness, when you first time you're seeing that blue, reflexive awareness is experiencing that you are experiencing the blue. So therefore, now you can recall both at the same time. I remember blue and I remember having seen the blue. So in the mind, the Prasangika school says, when you first time when you see the blue, the experiencing of the blue is the cause for the recollections. Experiencing the blue is enough to remember. So if the experience the blue is enough to recall, and why do you need the reflexive awareness? So the Prasangika school, I think the Chandrakirti right now, he has the reason that very simple and it's not really convincing to the mind school. But so Chandrakirti, whatever he want to say, he say it now. This for me, very simple, is past experience is the only thing that you can have the recollection of that object, you can recollection of the subject. So you cannot remember separately. You remember blue and not remembering having seen the blue. It is impossible. So that's what Prasangika school says. So this is the Chandrakirti trying to reason out, recollections. Your recollections is possible in the absence of reflexive awareness. So, and then, for the minority school says, so this is not really convincing. And then we have Lama Tsongkhapa says, I'm going to have Shantideva to explain to you. So then this another thing is the Shantideva. Now Shantideva has to come and explain. So the approach present in the text, other texts, the Shantidevas text, approach present in other texts of the two major schools of the thought, or how the recollections can arise in the absence of reflexive awareness, view of the illustrious Shantideva are presented in his guide to the Bodhisattva way, such as in the following line: if there is no reflexive awareness, how is consciousness remembered? So that Shantideva put, I think the brought up the minor school question again. So the opponent's standpoint decided here in this line is the same one that has been discussed already quite extensively above. To the opponent's proof, the statement, the Shantidevas respond by pointing out that no entailment hold both for the consequences thrown as well as its reverse syllogism. So, in the simple word, saying that Shantidevas is not repeating, she's not repeating Chandikiri says. Shantideva says, it not always, when Mindfulness School says, before having experience in the past, how can you remember? And Shantideva says, it not always, it's not necessary to remember something you have experienced in the past. That's Shantideva says. So that is very, very striking, the Mindfulness School. Mindfulness School, all the point to establish the reflexive awareness is keep saying, you haven't really experienced in the past, how can you recall? And Shantideva said, that is possible. You don't have to remember something you have to exactly experience in the past. Last time I mentioned that, for example, when you are sleeping, at night, scorpion or some bites, stink, and stink, and you don't know. It just you experience the bit, that you are bitten, but you are in sleep, and then morning you see the whole leg is, turn, bruise, and you're pain, and it's very obvious that there's a poison. And then say, oh, now I remember last night someone bitten on me, so it has poisoned. So we say, now I remember it has poisoned. So you have experienced the bit at the night, but at that time you haven't experienced that you have poisoned. You are poisoned, right, at the time. Now you say, now I remember it was poisoned last night. So Shantideva says, to recall something is not necessarily exactly you have experienced in the past. So that Mindfulness School, had rubbed his head now. Their whole logic is based on that. This was destroyed. Maybe Mindfulness School may go to shower again. So take shower, put a lot of shampoos and come back. So what he has said now, so the whole point of the reflexive awareness is recollections is due to, things that you have experienced in the past. Not experienced in the past, no recollections. So the Shantideva says, not always. So this is in everyday conversations, people, when we meet people, friends in the coffee shop, and when we, start talking, and then, it will continuously remind you something, and then you all discuss continuously, endlessly, like 2-3 hours staying. So these are, every recollections, not necessarily exactly you have experienced in the past. Or that reminds me, or that reminds me, that reminds me, right? We say that. So sometimes you confuse, you don't remember, you do not know that you are confused. And then after explain, oh, now I know. I was confused at first. So yeah, Shantideva says, pointing out that no entailment holds both for the consequences thrown as well as the reverse syllogisms. The reverse syllogism is like, when we say a table is impermanent because it's the product from the cosmic condition. So now reverse, anything that is, product from the cosmic condition must be impermanent. So the anything impermanent is, is a product of being product from the cosmic condition. So, and sometimes say anything that is not permanent is not as a product of the cosmic conditions. So when Mind Only School says, anything to remember, you have to experience in the past. So the Shantideva says, not necessary. To remember something, that thing you have to experience in the past. So the reverse consequences, in syllogism. Question then remains, how then can recollections occur in the absence of reflexive awareness? When the cognition of the object rather than that of the subjective experience take place, it is from the cognition experiencing the object that recollections of the subjective consciousness experience occur. Opponents, it is illogical to assert that recollections of this subjective experience occurs owing to the experience of some other object, for this will lead to the absurd consequences. So how can you say that? The Mind Only School says, how can you have recollection of something that you haven't experienced in the past? You have not known anything about it, and then you remember. So response, no such fault exists, for when subjective experience recall on the basis of having experienced an object, it is not independent of the remembering that cognitions. So I said the example, when you're sleeping, something that bit, on your leg. So morning you remember that you are poisoned from there. So that remembering that your leg has been poisoned from the bit, right? From the bit. So you remember, you have bit that you remember. It is connected to that. So it's not independent, the memory. It is from experiencing that having been bit. So that connect, and you add it, now you are poisoned. So the being poisoned is not independent for the remembering of having been bit by the scorpion or something. So it is not independent of the remembering that cognitions, rather than the recollections takes form through the blending of the object and its subjective experience, such as in the thought. I saw this thing before. This is to say, the two are remembered in a fused manner, right? Connected. Here is its analogies. When an animal is bitten by shrew, right? Shrew, shrew, shrew in the winter, even though the poison enters the animal's body at the time, so it is the bite, right, that is experienced and not the infections with the shrew poisons. Later, however, on hearing the sound of the thunder and the rising from hibernations, the animal comes to remember that the poison enters its body when it was bitten, even though it did not experience being infected the moment of the bit. Being bitten by shrew is analogous to the cognition experiencing its object by perceiving a blue thing. So usually this some kind of saying the bear they hibernate during that time, the mice or the rat and the bit on their body. And in the summer, the thunder, the sound, they wake them up. And then now they remember I was poisoned. And he told his experience to Shantideva. Shantideva is telling us.
The memory. This is an interpretation. I got an infect. You're making an interpretation. You're aware you were bit before, but you didn't know you were poisoned. Then you get an infection, and there can be many, many things that can cause that infection. You're making an assumption. You're making an assumption that infection is from the bite, but in reality, that infection could be from many things, not just what you think. So this is not a memory.
Yeah,
this isn't as a memory. This is an imposition.
I think kidney has a special place for the heart.
No,
I'm quite sure now.
What I'm saying is totally logical. And I've had this experience of thinking, oh, I got this problem from here. And then later on, I realized, well, there's other possibilities. I'm making an assumption that event A is related to event B, which occurred 3 or 6 months later. But in fact, event B may or may not be related to event A. It's not a foregone conclusion at all. I mean, I'm talking, this is logical here. This is not kidney heart stuff. This is logical. You're making an interpretation that event A caused event B. In fact, there could be no relationship.
Please make the relationship. Don't divorce from me. Yeah, so this is what normally in our language we have this So when you eat something in the restaurant, at the time you find it's very delicious, and then you come back, you got sick, and then you understand, oh, so there is, something in that food. So now I remember I was poisoned from that food, or I got, the things that you are allergic with. Maybe at the time you're eating, you don't see it. So when you come back, you remember. This in the language we say that.
No, this isn't correct. And next moment I may remember, oh yeah, I ate something else before I ate this at the restaurant. Maybe this I ate it past the expiration date. Maybe my indigestion is caused from this. Maybe it's a stomach flu I got from someone on the train. I cannot, with any definitive conclusion, again say, this prior event caused that event. There could be many events that cause that event.
So if many, the one is possible. Because you have many.
Yes,
so we're just, from that many is the one of this.
It's not, but no, it may be even something I don't even know about. I may not even have an idea what it was.
You said many.
What's that?
You said there are many.
I say there's many possibilities.
So I'm just from that many is one. I think they're remembering.
That's not remembering. That's conjecturing that this one was the cause.
But you can be, there are many possible. You can, when you are sleeping, you are bitten, and you experience that being bitten. But morning you wake up, so it is all possible. Snake or mosquito or cats, all possible. But you also knowing that my leg is poisoned, and then say, oh, the last night that it bitten at that time it's poisoned. So we all use the language. Now I remember it happened last night.
We use that language, but this is the very basis of the word misdiagnosis, is the misinterpretation of causation.
Hey, kidney. So we are not saying it has to be cat, it has to be mice. We say there's some infections, right? Infections, understand. Then we say, oh, now I remember. I was infected at the time that I was bitten. We're simply saying, we're not saying that was the last night the bit was the cat or my scorpion or snake, or we are not saying that. I was poisoned from that bit. We are not concluding, saying that has to be the cat or the snake or the scorpion. No. I think you have you have plenty of time, so you want to, entertain yourself. So
I'm not doing this the entertaining. I just don't think it's a logical interpretation.
Sure. So we have a long time, in the next coming, months or something. When you say, "Oh, now I remember," then I will say, "Stop saying that." So whenever we have, conversations, never ever said it. Now that reminds me, never said that because. So we are simply talking about the remembering. You are talking about specific what condition that. We're simply saying in the language we have this, in the everyday language, in the sentence, correct sentence, we say that reminds me. That reminds me. Now I remember. So now I remember I was, confused. Now I remember I was insulted. Sometimes people don't know they're insulted or not. And then later on they think, oh, the people were I thought they were praising me. So I was insulted. So people say that. Now I remember. So we are talking about these things, that remembering and bring this kind of experience, present to the mind-only school. How do you explain this now? So anything that you may remember, anything that reminds you, you have already perceived in the past. And then how can you say, that reminds me? I remember, or that reminds me. Mind-only school says that to remember something, you have to perceive that, experience that in the past. So the Shantideva says, no, to remember something, to remind something, it's not necessary you have experience in the past. That there must be one single thing that connected to the memory, right? To memory. So the past experience in that particular remembering has to be connected with something that continuously coming. So that means, according to here, that the bit, having been bitten. So that experience in the past, that experience in the present, and the both part, and that bitten is reminding you, right? What you remind is not have experience in the past, but something that you have experienced shares from the past to the present is the bitten. Yeah, it's very, very simple. Sometimes we saw something, the table, the table has your name, and you saw that table in other house. So you saw the table, it looks like my table, Then you go back, and next time you see, oh, there was my name on it. Oh, that exactly that reminds me, it's my table. So the table that is shared in the past and the present, and again, external memories. Is table being yours is remembered.
I think it's when we talk about past experience, I think we kind of mix two things together. One is experience, another one is recognized or awareness. And being bitten by, when you sleep bitten by a mosquito, you're not aware, but that experience is there. And when you wake up, or it started to itch, so you kind of, you kind of put it together, says, oh, I must be eaten by a mosquito when I was sleeping. And I don't know if that says, remember, or because if you don't recognize, you don't remember, you just kind of put it together as a, logically you think it must be beaten by something. Okay. But the experience of beaten is there, of the beating is there. Okay. So I'm thinking is the experience is needed to have like a recollection or remember, or I don't know if it remember, but recognition. But awareness is the one you need, I don't know, to remember. Anyway.
Is Larry there?
Yes. Yes.
So, is Larry asked you to help?
Yes, I'm here. I'm contaminating her mind.
Did you ask help from May?
No, May,
So, I think Today's Larry family is coming at me.
This is one of the times we're in agreement here.
Now I have to wait for Larry's son.
My son will be much more difficult than me. Nothing compared to
So you can, having been poisoned from the bitten that you experienced in the past, you can say, oh, that is new recognitions. So new recognitions, because it is new recognition, therefore it is not going to call it memory. New recognitions. So new recognitions, therefore it is not going to be recall or recollections.
I think we may think we recognize something. We may, a little kid thinks he sees his mother and he tugs at someone's skirt and it turns out not to be his mother. So
yeah, that's another story.
You're associating two, you're making an association. You're drawing a conclusion from an association you're making that may not be a correct association. So you can have the beliefs you've recognized something, and in fact you've misrecognized. I mean, misrecognition definitely happens in this world.
So there's a, in the path of accumulations, 5 path of accumulation, path of preparations, path of seeing, path of meditations, and enlightenment. So they're all focusing on the ultimate truth. It continues the remembering. So the recognition of the emptiness is new. Recognizing the emptiness through come abiding special insight, recognitions of the emptiness through direct realizations, recognitions of the emptiness through continuously familiarization to the direct realization emptiness, and then finally, being recognized and settled in the emptiness is enlightened. Right. So, so the recognition, because it's a recognition, it cannot be a recollections. That is not very not true. So you can, more you remember, you recognize something new and more obvious to you, more convincing to you. So the bidden is remembering the bidden and recognizing I had poison at the time I was bitten. Right. So this is called remembering. Now I remember, that's what we say. Now the question here is, Chandaki, this question, particularly the question here is, so how can you say it's a recollections? Because being poisoned is newly discovered. And in what sense, in what manner that you say this the recollections? So this recollections is the continuous remembering of the bidden. So therefore it is the recollection. And then additional, it is the discovery being poisoned. So there is no two kind of, the consciousness is not different. The consciousness is continue. There is additional, discovery at the time. So it is remember and discover. And when you discover something, you forgot what you remember, what you have experienced. It's not true. It's a continuous remembering and then revealing, discovering, remembering. Within the remember, you discovered. So therefore, it is the recollections. So it's not like, you have seen the parrot outside, and you see the cat in the room. So this is not remembering. This is not recollections. Right? Here, continuously remembering the bitten, and then, there's something sign on your leg, something pain, numbness. So then that editing on that memory. So I was poisoned at the time. Last night I was sleeping. Right? So this is the recollection. So the Shantideva says, yes, I'm going to say this is recollection. Everybody says the recollection. Now what you do? So, you cannot feed me reflexive awareness. Put me in my mouth. So, and and from the Chittamatra school, they cannot really deny that. They cannot dispute. This is not part of recollection. If they cannot dispute on to deny or to reject this is the recollections, and they accept it, not explicitly, but implicitly accept it, admit it. And once they explicitly accept this is the recollection, then they find what they have, their assertions, their point of view has damaged, because their whole idea of the reflexive awareness is based on that. Every recollection has to have experience in the past. Whatever you're remembering, you have had experienced that in the past. So that is their, the foundation to establish the reflexive awareness. So that was totally damaged, shaken up by the Shantideva's reasoning. So they have said, the Chandrakirti is that whatever you say, it kind of, making sense to me, but it's not really convincing to me to give up the idea of the reflexive awareness. And Chandrakirti says, I'm going to ask Shantideva. So Shantideva says that when Shantideva brings this kind of idea, and the Mindfulness School says, yeah, maybe I'll come tomorrow, maybe. So otherwise, two options: you give up, accepting this is the continuity of recollection. You have to say this is not the recollection, or you say it is the recollection. Therefore, recollections, not necessarily whatever you recall has to have experience in the past. So if you say that, they will, they're already giving up the idea of the reflexive awareness. And so only thing, if they want to say, to hold on to the concept of the reflexive awareness, they have to say, now this mundanely may call recollections, from the philosophical point of view, it is not recollections. And Chandrakirti, the Shantideva says, mundanely accepted, there is no any harmful from the mundane conventional knowledge. And it is also not against the ultimate reasoning. So this is relatively existing. This is the truth. Once this is the truth, so your idea of the reflexive awareness has to build on, this, every recollection has to have experience in the past. It's destroyed.
That sounds an awful lot to me like what Shantideva is saying is that no, it doesn't have to be from the past, because you may be creating a belief that it's from the past, but it's a false recollection.
So
So,
now
yes.
only one option left. Only one option left to pay you. Are you accepting it?
Got off here.
So I want to pay you with, you know, you want an airplane, you want train, or
Not even by Donald Trump. I won't be broke.
so it's, yeah. So Shantideva says, if this is the recollections, then your whole idea of the, you know, the foundation of the reflexive awareness is, you know, washed away. If this is the recollections, then every recognitions of the cognition of the object, you have to say it's not the recollections. Then, you know, path of, you know, intellectual understanding emptiness, realization emptiness through the Kamabhati special insight, realization emptiness from the the direct experience, realization emptiness, the path of seeing. So all, there is no perfection of the memory. So there's no perfection of, you know, concentrations. So whatever you concentrate, so you are not remembering the things that you are concentrating. You are perfecting the wisdom because you don't have good memory. So anything that you realize is not remembering from the past. You know, you have a memory problem, so therefore you cannot have the perfection of the wisdom, perfection of the concentration. Usually in the path of accommodations, there says in the small and the medium and the great, 3 levels in the path of accommodations. And then there's the great level of path of accommodations, Bodhisattva who has reached that state, so they can recall many of the teachings in the past life. So there's the recollections. You know, and they can receive the teaching, you know, teaching from the many Buddhas and the different realms. So these are, you know, in the Prajaparamita Sutra. So you can remember the teaching that you have received in 100 lives before. So all of them become a fresh memory. So then when you remember, you know, according to Minority School, you don't add any knowledge onto it. so otherwise, if you add any realization, and then no longer it becomes memory. So by recalling, you cannot discover any realization. Because every time you generate the realization on that based on memory, and it's no longer called memory. You know, while you remember something, you cannot, you know, develop, improve your knowledge. Yeah. Yes, May. Come. Bring it on.
I think the problem is the language. When we say remember, we remember the past, kind of past experience, the picture come to our memories that we remember. But recognition is different. Recognition is the kind of you, because of past experience, that memory, just like you just say,
yeah.
You recognize something new and you kind of improve it. But this recognition can be the right recognition or the wrong recognition. But like you say, memory is more like it just from the past picture, bring it up to your, you don't improve it or you know, just a sort of the picture, you took the picture and come back to your mind. So I think the recognition and memory is the definition of those 2 words confuse us.
No, you can when you display the definitions and separately, but you can join them together. For example, say, oh, generally, as a female and a woman is, is separate. Woman is generally, and the wife is more specific, but they can be stays in one. Woman is, wife is based on the woman. So similarly, recognition in generally is not memory. Realization is not memory, right? But realizations is based on what you remember, what you have heard, what you are taught, what you have, learned. So it is no different. It's not like apple and orange, right? Recognitions, realizations, discovery is not independent from what you remember. So this is what saying, having been poisoned from your experience, bitten in the past. So the bitterness continues the remembering, and you are editing. Now I remember I was poisoned at that time. Still, within the remembering the bitten, you recall something new. So that still counts as recollections. So, meditating on emptiness many times, then you say, oh, now that means the color that I'm seeing, smell, the taste, and the textures, all, it is totally absent, the intrinsically, but relatively. So it's part of the recollections. So, yeah, Shantideva has point. Shantideva has the point. That having been poisoned, the remembering from, having been poisoned, remembering having been poisoned from what you remember, you have the bit at the mind, is still within the recollection. So once accept that is still a recollections, and then Shantideva says, now, this, recognition of being poisoned is new. There is no any experience in the past. So how can you say this is the recollections? But in the language we say is the recollections, right? And on the conventional, the ordinary people, they say that reminds me, this is what I remember from that time. So now you want to create another language that against the mundane, ordinary, conventional knowledge. So if we go for a vote, I get more vote from the whole mundanes agree with me. So yeah, generally it's like that. Mango tree and the tree. Generally you can separate them. But the mango tree is no different from the tree. Anyway, yeah. So if you don't find this is making sense to you, and then you always watch yourself, watch your language. Ever said that reminds me, So when you think of that reminds me, the thing that you remembered now has any ever experience in the past or not? Sometimes many people say that, that reminds me, he was laughing at me. So maybe when you met that person and he smiled, and you thought is the friendly expression. So then you kind of discover something, the way he behaved. Oh, when I first met, he was kind of smiling and just giggling at me. So he thought I thought he was friendly expression, but he was laughing at me. Or because you have something on your face, funny things, then he laughed, but you did not know at the time. And then you come back to your room, you see your face in the mirror. Oh, this is why they were laughing at me. You know? So there's many things we say. You know, Shanti, are you against all of this language? You know? So many times, when you're studying, and you thought, oh, this is what I understand at the time, and then you spend for the long time, and you come back and say, oh, so my understanding, I remember that, I did not really understand at all. So now you remember. So we say, now I remember. I did not understand at all. So now, are you going to say that you're knowing that you don't understand what's experienced in the past? In the past, you thought you understand it. Now, how can you say it? Now I remember I did not understand at all. So you need to, change the language, wordings, according, if you continue to follow the minority school. Yeah. So the Shantideva was used example like bear hibernating during that time and bit by the mice, and during the summer the thunder, from the thunder sound they wake up, and then they kind of drag their leg or pain, and they say, oh, now I remember I was poisoned the time I was bitten. And Bear says, well, I should say this to Shantideva. So Shantideva will write in the book. So now we are reading the bear story. So, it's one of the kind of the story, but this is every day is happening with us. That reminds me, that reminds me. Sometimes if there is no recollections functioning, so sometimes we spend 4 hours, 5 hours, with only two persons you're talking. We have not much big topic, and then it continues the kind of conversations expanded. So when you still talk about someone, oh, that reminds me this happened. Oh, this reminds me this happened. So this is in the recollections where the kind of communicating, or the emotionally kind of playing on those recollections. What we have other than the recollections. So we are algorithm living being. So no realizations, only can function on the recollections. So artificial intelligence. Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. Great. Chanju Simjo Rinpoche, Maje Bana, Jeju, Jebanya, Nevanya, Kone, Kondo, Pewu, Tony Tawa Rinpoche, Maje Bana, Jeju, Jebanya, Meva, Kone, Kondo, Pewu, Pama Simjan Tamja, Dedan, Denu, Nendo Tamja, Tato, Tonga, Chanju Simba, Kana Sushu, Tada Kunja, Monum Jubjuruchi, Karera Veko Vishiga, Kanda Dewa Manu June, Jeresa, Tindi Jabi, Shabeside Bado, Dangeruchi.
May the precious body mind that have no horizon grow. May the bone of no decline but increase forever.
May the precious
Mind realizing emptiness that have no horizon grow. May the bone of no decline but increase forever. Due to all these merits, may all father and mother sentient beings have all the happiness, and may all lower realms be empty forever. Wherever there are bodhisattvas, may all their prayers be accomplished immediately.
in the sacred
And
land.
surrounded by snow mountains, you are the source of all benevolent happiness, all powerful achievements and gifts. Remain in this world until samsara ends.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Maharaj. Thank you.